What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Talk Wrestling. I know we had a little bit of a break, but we are back and ready to go. It's gonna be a sad one today. I'm not gonna make any bones about it or lie or whatever. It's gonna be a rough one for everybody that's been involved with Extreme Mayhem and the shows for the last, I believe it, Aaron, 9 years. My God, we've been doing this stuff for 9 years together. Back in October 2003, we had the privilege of interviewing the Macho Man, Randy Savage. And Aaron posted that interview in one of the features on NoDQ.com. It's been on the website for the longest time, but it was a feature on Friday after we heard about his unfortunate passing. And then I went into the garage, literally, as we tape this, it is like 10-something in the morning on a Monday. I went into my garage at 6:45 this morning and dug these two out of storage just because I wanted to have Randy Savage something on this show. I had the big wrestling pillow buddy thing, but that's in Santa Clarita somewhere. Can't find that. I live in Long Beach now. You guys know that. So today's show is going to be about Randy Savage and our memories of him, my memories of him. Aaron apparently has more memories than I do because his first live event, he posted this on Facebook, was May or June of '87, and the main event was the still heel Macho Man Savage after losing the Intercontinental title against WWF champion Hulk Hogan. So Aaron and Randy Savage go back farther than I do, and I mentioned WrestleMania 3. He was Intercontinental champion for a year and a half by then almost. He had beaten Tito Santana thanks to some chicanery and some distraction on the part of Danny Davis. That was the beginning of Danny Davis's downfall as a referee. Always remember that in the Boston Garden. I finally got to see that match when the IC title DVD came out a couple years back. Great match. But you cannot mention Randy Savage and the Intercontinental Championship without talking about the match that, in my opinion, and I'm sure in many of your opinions, put the Intercontinental title on the map. And that was Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, WrestleMania 3. The match that took the highlight, the main event that was Hulk and Andre, and just blew it away. You know, for every, plotting big hit that Andre laid down, for every big boot, body slam, leg drop that Hogan did, Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage went out there and put on arguably, choreographed or not, arguably the best wrestling match of the modern era. And, the only things I think that surpassed that match is the Flair Steamboat series. And, again, that says volumes about Ricky Steamboat. But Randy Savage was a guy who, he came in after playing minor league baseball. His father was a wrestler. His brother was a wrestler. And, did wrestling on the side type of thing. He played minor league baseball. He was going to turn pro. He was a pro. He was just in the minor leagues. He played with the Reds for a while, the Reds minor league system. My dad's team, go Reds. Chicago White Sox, I believe, if I remember right, or the Cubs, one of the Chicago teams. I don't know. But decided to go into wrestling, wrestled in Memphis for a while with Lawler, had a great feud with Lawler. My God. Some of the matches they had were just sick. But when he got to the WWF and became Intercontinental champion and was, honky tonk, I'm the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time. You're a bitter old Elvis wannabe, honky tonk man, seriously. And I know you're going to get on my case for saying that because that's how you are, honky tonk man. Randy Savage, it can be argued, was the greatest Intercontinental champion of the 80s. Perfect was the 90s. I'll still say that's the day I die. Perfect was the best champion of the 90s. But in the 80s, Randy Savage's title reign put that title on the map. So, after he lost the title, a series of circumstances led to a saving grace in the form of Hulk Hogan, who saved Randy from the Hart family, the first family, whatever the hell Jimmy Hart's camp was called in the WWF back then, and the formation of the Mega Powers, which catapulted Randy to even further superstardom. The year-long partnership, the slow burn of the feud that led to WrestleMania 5 and the explosion of the Mega Powers, winning the WWF Championship Tournament in WrestleMania 4, arguably the greatest championship tournament in history. Randy wrestled 4 times that night, I believe, and just cleaned house, the first SummerSlam, he was in the main event with Hulk against Andre and DiBiase. And, you know, that the whole storyline with Hulk and Savage over the years, whether it was in the WWF or in WCW, was just so well done. And granted, they couldn't wrestle like they could in WCW, like they could in the WWF when they were in WCW. They were both older. They were both a little bit, you know, beat down and whatever. But those two had such great chemistry. It was such a fucking pity that they didn't get along for as long as they did. And if what Hulk says is true and they did make peace, that makes me happy personally, because, you know, they were so bitter to each other for so long. Hulk says Randy was more. Randy said Hulk was, you know, whatever. We had Randy on the show. I'll talk about that later, like I said. After the Mega Powers explosion, for a little while, he kind of bounced around and did the whole thing with Zeus against Hogan. He was obsessed with Hogan. And then he became the Macho King. Macho King Savage, beat Duggan. Put Duggan down. Sensational Queen Sherry was with him. And that's when I first saw Randy Savage, in October of 1990, when I discovered the wrestling business. Ultimate Warrior was the WWF champion, and the Macho King was targeting him and wanted a shot and got a shot and lost. And that led into the 91 Rumble, where Macho cost Warrior the championship against Sergeant Slaughter. It led to my first pay-per-view ever, and the retirement match between Randy and Warrior at WrestleMania 7. And keep in mind, I had been watching wrestling less than 6 months by the time WrestleMania 7 rolled around, and at whatever I was, 8 years old, I cried in the middle when Randy and Elizabeth were in the middle of the ring and they reunited. I didn't even know they were together before that, but it was such a heartwarming moment. And SummerSlam 91 was my first pay-per-view that I had on home video, and I still have the little heart-shaped refrigerator magnet from the wedding of Macho Man and Elizabeth, and that was such a great moment. The reception, which, by the way, I have to voice a beef with WWE on this one. On the SummerSlam anthology set that they released over the course of a few years, SummerSlam 91, you guys have the wedding, but not the reception. We don't get to see the attack by the Snake. We don't get to see the Undertaker attack with the urn. We don't see Sid Justice save the day. That's bullshit. That made that angle with Roberts, which was a great feud that Randy had. You know, it was amazing, the feud that they had over Jake the Snake ruining the wedding reception, the fight for reinstatement, finally got reinstated, the snake bite incident on Superstars, and, you know, the whole slapping Elizabeth, and that led to the babyface turn of The Undertaker, because Undertaker saved Miss Elizabeth from a chair shot by Jake the Snake Roberts on Saturday night's main event. So, you know, Randy was so intertwined with storylines that they evolved several things around him, and the babyface turn of The Undertaker, which lasted for, God, how long did that last? 7 years before he turned heel again? 6 years? And the rise of The Undertaker was indirectly responsible from Macho Man Savage and Elizabeth. You can't go wrong with that. A lot of people remember when Ric Flair came to WWF and he and Randy feuded over the WWF Championship, and the whole claim by Ric Flair that she was mine first, and the doctored photos and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, just that whole series going into WrestleMania 8 and beyond. What can I say? You know, two of the greatest of all time in the ring again. Unfortunately, after that reign ended in September, Vince kind of relegated him to part-time wrestler and announcer. He was on Raw for the longest time. He was the voice of Raw with Vince or Bobby or Jim Ross for a while. It can be argued that Vince kind of forced him out when he did in 1994 after the big feud with Crush. You remember that? Yokozuna squashed Randy Savage and Crush didn't help him, whatever it was, and they had a great Falls Count Anywhere war at WrestleMania 10. My God, that was incredible. And all of a sudden, Randy's gone. He goes to WCW and promises to either slap Hulk in the face or shake his hand. And he saved him from the faces of fear and shook his hand. And for a couple of years, they were on the same side. And then Hulk turned on everybody. He turned heel and became the evil Hollywood Hogan. And Randy Savage was the first target. And he leg dropped turned his back on his brother, turned his back on me, turned his back on everybody. Sorry. You know, I can't do that as good as Matt Striker or Jay Lethal, but I'm working on it. And then Savage joins the NWO and targets DDP. The whole thing with Kimberly. It can be argued, and it's very hard to argue against the fact that the feud with Randy Savage made Diamond Dallas Page a star. Because DDP was a well-known guy in WCW. He had started late in his career as a wrestler. He had started late in life because he was a manager and an announcer and all that. And he got into the game in the ring late. And he was mildly successful. He was TV champion, I believe, before the feud with Savage. But it was really the feud with Randy that put DDP over. Maybe even U.S. champion. But the feud with Randy and Liz and Kimberly involved really put DDP over and propelled him into superstardom. DDP, when the funeral happens for Randy Savage, DDP better be there kissing some serious butt. So
they're not doing a funeral.
They're not doing a funeral?
It's just a private service for the family.
Oh. Well, I understand that. I understand that. Anyway, talking out of my ass as usual. Okay, anyway. He's at WCW for a couple more years. He brought Gorgeous George in, which led to more conflict with Hulk. We found that out in the Hulk Still Rules DVD. But he was WCW champion 4 times altogether before he left. And then he kind of disappeared for a while. I didn't hear too much from Randy Savage. And then in 2002 and 2003... he announced his aspirations to be a rap star. Yikes. And that was when we came in contact with him for the first time. I got his, generally speaking, I will give credit where credit is due. A lot of the early interviews were brokered by Mike, and Mike made those happen, and he knew his contacts in TNA and things like that. But I'm going to toot my own horn here on this one, because I was the one that got Randy's publicist on the phone, and got his management team on the phone, and through how long did it take? It took like 2 months, didn't it, Aaron? It was ridiculous. It took 2 months, but we finally got him on the phone, and I chuckle every time I think about that interview. I cried when I listened to it the other night, but I chuckle because my mother, and all her wonder, and she's such a sweet person, but she hates wrestling so much. She hates this business with a passion. But even she marked out when we were screening the call, and on this Randy Savage, I'm ready for the interview, and my mom's like, oh my God. My mom marked out. If my mom marks out for a guy, it's a good day, Tater. I'm just saying. Had him on the show. We did an hour and something that day. I'm not sure if the whole interview was an hour, but we talked with him and Brian Adams, which, again, you look back on the shows we did, and it's eerie because Brian Adams is gone. Randy's gone. Crash Holly's gone. The Wall, Jerry Toot is gone. And we met Chris Candido, and he's gone. Just this business is fucked up. About a year after that, he showed up in TNA for his last run, and we, as a unit, the three extremists, if you will, saw his last match. It was him and AJ Styles and the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy against the... Well, I'm not going to call them the KOW, because the KOW is Claudio and Chris Hero, but Jeff Jarrett and the Outsiders. Yeah, it was 5 minutes. Yeah, it was a run-in at the end. Yeah, he dropped the elbow and got the 1, 2, 3. But it was the last time Randy Savage performed a wrestling move in a wrestling ring. And Aaron and Mike and I were there to see it. And that part of me feels honored because that Impact Zone is so small and only a select few got to be in there for the pay-per-view. And we were there. So, we have a question about Randy from Telephoto USA in Illinois. What are the chances that Randy Savage will get into the Hall of Fame next year, given his untimely demise? I have not been quiet about the fact that the whole squabble with Vince is bullshit in the first place. The fact that the ice melted a little bit and he did the promo for All Stars this last year makes me believe that things have turned around in the WWE Randy Savage relationship and had turned around to the point where if it happened sooner, he would have been in the Hall of Fame in Atlanta. They're going back to Florida. Randy's from Florida. It would not surprise me one bit if Randy and Liz together go in the Hall of Fame for WrestleMania 28. So, with that, that's all I got to say about the Macho Man Randy Savage. I hope you guys enjoyed. And that's how we'll send it off right there. Goodbye, Randy. Godspeed, man.